Perhaps the first hour was us being very disciplined and sticking to what we were doing. And I thought we ground the Kiwis down. And then the last 20 minutes, I thought we started opening it up and throwing the ball about. And whilst the scoreline was still very, very close, I thought we were really quite dominant as the game wore on. And it was very exciting rugby for the last sort of 20 minutes.
Definitely.
Or so.
Yeah, I agree. The first half an hour of the game was probably New Zealand's. It felt like territorially they were gaining more ground on England every single time, but England's resolve was showing through again in the defensive structures, and the Kiwis started to get impatient, started to make mistakes, and then England brought Darrell Clark off the bench, who I thought really changed the impetus and momentum of the game. I don't know if you had the same view of that. And by the time he got injured, it was a shame, but I think we were ready to get back into kind of the original structures anyway, with the frontline forwards coming back on when New Zealand weren't quite ready to switch up back to their frontline forwards, and actually that gave us a huge platform for what came. I thought Williams in the first half, for that first Makinson try, the one with his big looping pass, that came off basically Williams doing all the Williams set plays within the two sets. So he did his short ball to Whitehead, to his second rower, then he did his step off his right foot to try and go towards the posts, then he did his little kick through which earned the dropout, and then in the next set he did his little mazy run across the front of the defence, got back into position for that long pass, and it made me feel like, oh, Williams has landed as an international player. This is what I get to see quite a lot, but it was all condensed into 2 minutes. And then when Clark came on, it helped open things up a little bit more for Hodgson, Williams and Tompkins to actually start putting on some set plays. I don't know if you saw it the same way.
Yeah, I did. I thought Williams was really good, and I thought that I suppose Makinson will get a lot of the headlines for his tries in that match. But I thought that his defensive effort was absolutely crucial. That one where
the one-on-one with Tohu Harris, wasn't there?
Yeah, which was that was all, and I thought there was a massive difference between that and I thought the Kiwis' first try at Ellen Road, where Johnny Lomax went for the guy's legs. What Makinson did there, he effectively just did a bear hug on him, didn't he? Just sort of jumped, wrapped all around and said, well, I'm between the ball and the ground, and which I just saw, and then his mates came and helped him out. And I just thought that showed a real sort of level of maturity and a real desperation.
Yeah, and Makinson's final try, his third try, was the one that was the most piece of him being individually brilliant. There was the try. The first try was Williams' pass. The second try was the incredible tip on from Connor. Connor's try was the brilliant work from Hodgson and Whitehead, which shows where you've got players who play together regularly, how they can call a play that the opposition don't see them call. They can when they did that blindside move. So all of those things were working great in our favour. But Makinson's contributions, like you say, went well beyond the try scoring side of things. There was a very cute piece of play in the second half as well, where and this was right in front of me, so I remember it quite well, where the Kiwis had made a little bit of a half break. It might have been Sean Johnson who made the half break, and Makinson did the tackle, rolled over him relatively quickly as if he was going back into marker, but kind of just pulled his shirt just out of the sight line of the officials, and it slowed down the play of the ball. And he got everything just right, did Makinson, in this game, with his defence and his attack. Apart from that ball inside to Lomax, that would have been an absolutely brilliant try. That was about the only thing, because I thought in the first test, he did make a mistake early on, didn't he? There was a high ball that went up, he caught it, and then was getting pushed back to the goal line, and then offloaded it. And I think Lomax then got trapped, or they almost scored, but it was deemed as a sort of knock on by the Kiwis. Yes,
and I think that was
Rapana's hand, I think.
And that there was a bit of sort of naivety, bit panicking. Whereas you just say, well, let's just take the drop out and we can start again. But apart from that, and certainly in that Anfield game, they just kept putting the ball up high to him, and he just kept taking it. He kept getting smashed, but he didn't panic at all. I was really, really impressed. I thought he really came of age in that match there.
Yeah, he was absolutely outstanding, and obviously the Golden Boot awards came just after that game, and given that he'd been really good off the bench in Denver, very, very good and versatile in the game, and resilient, I think, in the game at Hull, then this kind of was his crowning glory moment, right at the right time for those awards. I think if they were given a week before, then it probably would have been Elliot Whitehead who took it home. If they were given a week later, it might have been Daliwood Teddy Zelezniak who took it. But no knocking Makinson for what he did in that game. It was absolutely outstanding. There was a third game in the series, Brian, and it finished England 0, New Zealand 34 in front of a brilliant crowd at Leeds. That was it was the most atmospheric game of the series as well, 32,186. And the one thing that the organisers got very much right was the build-up to the game on the 100th anniversary of Armistice Day, the end of the First World War. There was very good tributes involved there, and the way that the players all merged in together with the match officials as well to observe the silence and pay their respects. All very good stuff. And then I went home.
Yeah.
I don't know what you saw.
Yeah, that match. I mean, I suppose one thing that really frustrates me is, like, I've very rarely been to a rugby league match that's kicked off on time. And that match, so you've got that. You've got 15 minutes of warm up. The game is due to kick off at 3:15. Why don't you start the warm ups up? All that stuff at 3 to sort of finish it on time. So
did you notice as well in these games a sort of second warm up because of like the length of time of the anthems and then the haka
absolutely.
And all of that getting set up and staged?
And I've seen that creep in the last couple of years, particularly when the Kiwis play, because the opposition has sort of stood there while the Kiwis do their haka. And then I think I saw it happen in the World Cup, where the Aussies would then sort of start chucking the ball about, or maybe it was Anfield last time, but yeah, that's when I first sort of noticed it. And I suppose you asked, if you think about a Super League match, the players come out, don't they? They do all their stuff. They then tend to go back in just a few minutes before kickoff, don't they? Then they come straight back out and get on with it. And I suppose if you've got all that, so it's a bit like warming a car up, I suppose. Formula One car, you get it warm up and then you're off. You don't want it to sort of hang around and cool down, which I guess is what sort of happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought all that warm up was, all that pre-match stuff was absolutely spot on. I really like that thing they did. Was it the 69 players from the Northern Union who died? And I thought that having our current players read their names out, and then where there was a picture of those players came out, and particularly the ones where it had got the players actually in their kit and from a team, you thought, wow, and those lads would have been same age or younger than some of those players going out there. So I thought that was done really, really well. And I thought what was also interesting, was when before the players joined that sort of solid line together, the England players went and they sort of shook hands. And I don't know, you just got the impression that the players actually meant that handshake, as opposed to, I think they do it in soccer, don't they, before championship matches or whatever, and they almost like never look at each other. Or it's almost like do you know what I mean? You don't get the impression that one player's looking at another player on the end and saying, oh, well done, mate, good, all the best for the game. Whereas I think in rugby league, because you're smacking at each other about a bit, you've just got to have that.
There's a level of respect for the physical toll that you're going to dish out,
there
and
is,
the one that you've taken as well. Certainly, we should probably talk a little bit about the game, because it did happen. Not too much. My observation of the game is I thought for 35 minutes it was a game, but then when the Kiwis scored just before half time, if England could have come out and done something after the break, maybe there was a chance there, but they scored again straight away after. And at that point, I think all the England players looked at each other and thought, this has been a long season. Let's get through this game now. And it kind of fizzled then. Yeah,
that's exactly how I described it to me, mate, at work today. I said it wasn't like a really big, massive, this wasn't a sort of 34-0 walloping type of thing. It was really, really tight for a while. As you said, they got that score, but that's okay because we were pretty confident. We've been behind in both the other two. We could come back, scored just before half time, scored just after, and everybody thought, oh, well, we've won it 2-1 now.
And then there was the Sim Minnings, weren't there, as well?
Yeah.
fired up the crowd a little bit, the Kiwi sin binning, but the Jerry McGilvery sin bin winner was one of the. It was the only really terrible call I think there was in this series. Maybe because some of the other questionable calls, like Connor's penalty try in the first of the series, but it felt like the referees allowed everything to go pretty much until that point, and it seemed a weird time to draw a line in the sand when the Kiwis had been laying on, St Helens 2014 Grand Final run style in front of the sticks all game.
That's what I thought when I saw that, because I thought, if I'd got a complaint with the referees, and particularly, and I'd say that he was allowing the Kiwis, I thought quite a lot of laying on him in both the Anfield Test and the News and the Ellen Road one. And then when he did McGilvery for that, and with the game gone, you thought, really? Because I don't know what the penalty count in that was, but England got quite a lot of penalties, didn't they? And they were for lying on and those sorts of things. And the other thing I thought was, in the Anfield Test, there were those 2 late hits, weren't there, on Tompkins?
Yes.
And they just sort of went. And I think in the Ellen Road one, there was it Elliot Whitehead got a right high shot in the first half, I think it was. Everybody stopped, knowing it was a clear high shot, and the referee just said, "Oh, carry on." Then he was tackled.
Throughout the series, in all 3 games, high shots. The rule that seems to have applied in Super League for the last few years has been anything above the shoulders, round the neck was a high shot. In this game, it was really, it had to be direct head contact to get a penalty.
Yeah.
What normally would be a yellow card was what a penalty was, it felt like, in this series, which I quite like the physicality of the game, so I've got no huge objection as long as it's consistent, and it was consistent. But that lying on one it felt, after all that had gone before, to have the last 10 minutes of the game with a man down for that was a bit weird, like you say. Okay, let's rattle through some views we got from the listeners as well, and feel free to chip in if you've got anything to add on what it says here, Brian. So Lee Whitnell said, buzzing to win the series, is superb to see so many debutants going so well. I was also particularly pleased with the Williams and Tompkins halfback combo show that we've got genuine depth there. Game 3 was a blip at the end of a very long season. Rob Ordish said, It was good to see a crowd size grow week on week. The sport has to build on this and get regular tours going. The international route is the only way to expand. David Cantrell at Dr. Hideous commented specifically on 2 of the games. He said the whole game, England's kicking was a bit dodgy, and especially at the end were hesitant in the tackle. The referee let New Zealand get away with some dirty play, but OTOH on, I don't know what it means. That helped the game flow.
I don't know what that means, OTOH.
No, evenly balanced until the last 15 minutes when New Zealand slowed down. Only thing slower was the queue for some half-time burgers. And he said at Ellen Road, the scoreline massively flattered New Zealand, who were nothing like that much better. They judged the refs' tolerance for slowing the play of the ball to perfection, holding England in check. We didn't help ourselves with too many very small errors in the last 20 metres.
Just on that queuing, I don't know which stand were you? Did you go to the Ellen Road game?
I did go. I went to the Anfield and Ellen Road games. I was in the big stand for the Ellen Road game. Yeah, so I was the east one, the one opposite the tunnel. Yes.
Yeah, with the sun in your eyes for the first 10 minutes. So, well, that's what I get.
I was low enough down that the sun went during the national anthems.
All right,
so the extended build-up to the game actually suited me.
yeah, probably had me otherwise. I'd have had the first half hour with it in my eyes. But that at half time went to the loo, so you're queuing up to get in, but you had to queue to get out. The guy, there was a guy. There was like one way in and one way out, and there was sort of steward on the out exit to make sure nobody was going in. So that'll work. But it didn't marshal the queue of people queuing up to get in. So the people queuing up to get in were over the exit, which meant that there was this build-up of blokes who had been for a pee but couldn't get out of the toilet to let new people in.
It's not like there wasn't enough space in the concourse there. It's a really big concourse. No, yeah. Not like Anfield where, bloody hell, I could touch both walls almost. It was that narrow concourse.
You think, when have you ever had to queue up to get out of the toilets, in a match? Bizarre arrangement. You think, how do they do it when Leeds have got a massive game or something like that? I don't know.
Paul Michael Craig said, from afar, I'd chalk it down to a successful season of internationals. England now look like they'd push Australia. We've got some more on that coming up later on. Alan Kale at Shoddy Mungo.